Every day now the mask falls further. On the very same day that the West's pet bulldog Israel was hauled into The Hague to face the charge of genocide in which EU countries are complicit, our so-called like-minded partners, the US and Britain, flout the UN Charter to commit their latest crime of aggression: illegal, unprovoked, unjustified airstrikes on Yemen. Lawless, barbarous acts to inflame the region and to make worse the catastrophic cost of living crisis being experienced by millions of Europeans. And now some of you actually want to join them. Seriously, with a straight face, people have come in here and said they want to do that in order to uphold international law. The very same international law that a horrified world has watched being trampled into the ruins of Gaza, while the EU hands Israel more weapons and cheers on the genocide. The Yemenis have killed no one. 25,000 Palestinians are dead, and all you're enraged about is international shipping. It's over. The EU has no moral authority. If you want to sort the situation out, end the genocide.
I was surprised that you didn't really put things in context before you gave your speeches. We have almost 30,000 Palestinians murdered by the Israeli regime, over 12,000 children. We have over 90% of the population are starving now. Babies have been born to malnourished mothers and they're only living for a few days. And you're saying that there's an unacceptable violation of international law going on and it's the Houthis doing it? Under international law, we have an obligation to prevent genocide taking place. The EU has done nothing to stop the genocide taking place. The Houthis have done something about it, and by interfering with shipping, facilitating the genocide. How, in God's name, how can you just turn a blind eye to the truth of what's really happening? The Houthis have killed nobody with the interference in the ships. Israel has killed 30,000, and you're giving out about the Houthis who've killed nobody. You're putting shipping before the lives of Palestinians. You just don't give a damn about the Palestinian lives, and that's the truth of the matter. And you're worried about spillover in international law. Israel is bombing Lebanon, is bombing Syria, is bombing Gaza, and you're worried about the Yemenis interfering with ships because there's money been lost over it. Is there a joke? Honestly, I just don't understand how you can take this perspective. What he's going to do about it? Is he ever going to tell Israel that they're committing a genocide? Because if this is not a genocide that's going on in Gaza, then what would you call it? That's one of my questions to you. I want you to know, what would you call what's going on in Gaza if it's not a genocide? And my other question to you is, if right now the US and UK are bombing cities in Yemen, do you think that's against the UN Charter? Because I do. Please tell me. It might be okay with the international rules-based order that just make up as you go along, but it is not okay with the UN Charter. Give us a break.
Do you realise how, I suppose, offensive and hypocritical it must seem to the millions of Europeans who've marched in order to have the upholding of international law and human rights validated by having a ceasefire in Gaza, to hear a representative of the EU saying that your motivation in the Red Sea is because of an unacceptable violation of international law, when the crimes people are witnessing on their TVs are the likes of which we have never seen. And EU authorities have not only not done anything, but have been openly declaring that they are prepared to ignore the outcomings of the International Court of Justice. So how is that upholding international law? And is the lives of people not more important than commerce? I think as well there is a bit of a problem with talking about peace in Yemen when we have illegal acts being perpetrated by our so-called like-minded partners and 3 member states supporting them. And the EU has nothing to say about that. Clearly, you couldn't care less about peace in Yemen if you're standing by and seeing civilians being bombed in Yemeni cities who've had nothing got to do with this. So I suppose my questions are quite targeted. Do you accept the claim by the Yemenis that they are only targeting Israeli ships and those destined to part of the occupied Palestinian territories, and that they are doing that in order to exercise pressure on Israel, a pressure which the EU could have done economically, for example, by suspending the EU-Israel Association Agreement and taking other efforts? They also say that their actions will stop once humanitarian aid is allowed to get in and access the people of Palestine who desperately need it. Again, a situation upheld by international law. So would it not be more productive to engage in that diplomatically rather than using it as an excuse for more militarism in the area?